I had no idea the British press was so bigoted.
This one's wife. Burned again. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Do you remember, many years ago, that I was the first to tell the world that this one's wife was a narcissist? I did so by examining the evidence that existed. I did so objectively, forensically, and explained in neutral terms what that all meant. Thereafter, this one's wife has provided such a body of work to examine on a near daily basis that it would have been remiss of me not to utilise this excellent case study to convey more information about narcissism to a much wider audience, and thus she has become something of a staple. But as part of that analysis, I also explained to you many months ago how the downward spiral had begun. It wasn't necessarily immediately apparent. It was a slow orbiting of the plug hole, if you will. But I explained that it had begun, and as time would go on, she'd get drawn closer and closer to that plug hole of obscurity. That suddenly it would pick up pace. And as of late, that has been the case. We have seen her many, many failings. We have seen how she has attempted to storm the world as fashion icon, failed, content creator, failed, podcaster, failed, fashion icon, failed, working member of the royal family, failed, political animal, failed. Each thing she has turned to, she has failed at because of two things: a lack of talent, and she has no longevity. The ephemeral nature of the way that her narcissism functions, namely operating in the now, means that she just simply does not stick at things. Add to that her increasing unpopularity, and it becomes more and more difficult for her to maintain a presence on the terms that she would prefer, i.e., worldwide adoration and copious wealth. We've seen how the A-list has turned away from her, how the royal family, expertly advised, knows not to deal with her, that politicians blocked her calls, that comedians have taken to lampooning and ridiculing her. The list of those that have been ghosted by this one's wife grows ever longer, but it's a two-way street now, as more people realise that this one's wife isn't a particularly pleasant person, but they also recognise that she is a disaster to be around in terms of your own popularity and reputation. Why would you want to hang out with a loser who is just trying to suck the life out of you? As I've mentioned before, those that are friendly with this one's wife are either those who are being paid by her, her stylists, her nail technician, PR advisors and such like, and those who utilise her for the purposes of serving their own agendas. Omid Scobie, for instance, Dr. Shouty Shola. Those people, like Mies and Harriman, have something to gain from her, and thus they tolerate her. But if you weren't getting anything out of it, why would you bother with not only a vacuous, uninteresting wannabe, but somebody who now has such a terrible reputation that you run the risk of being ostracised by others as a consequence of your association with her? And this has led to the hastening of her downward spiral. It has meant that the thing that I predicted over a year ago now has started to quicken in pace. And we have another example of this, which of course is problematic for a narcissist. Hannah Furness writes in The Telegraph, Duchess of Sussex's dear friend, Sophie Trudeau, says they have not spent much time together. Might this be another instance of this one's wife putting Sophie Trudeau on the shelf, as she has done so with many other people. Well, in actual fact, this is an instance of somebody recognizing that this one's wife is not good to be around, and therefore has distanced themselves from her. The Duchess of Sussex has described her as a dear friend, Flattery, with whom she has shared summer days by the pool, giddy, like absolute schoolgirls. Revision of history. I just absolutely adore you, she told Sophie Trudeau in 2022, when the then wife of the Canadian Prime Minister was on her podcast. Flattery, assertion of control. Asked about their friendship in an interview today, however, Ms. Gregoire Trudeau said simply, I know her. Tss, ooh, feel that burn. I know her. There was this one's wife gushing like a broken faucet as she described her as a dear friend, and that they were giddy like absolute schoolgirls. Laying it on thick as part of the false flattery that the narcissist engages in. But it would appear that Sophie has seen through this one's wife and doesn't gush in return, which of course is problematic for the narcissist, because that means that she's not receiving any fuel or not enough fuel. Furthermore, to be described as I know her contrasts with the view that this one's wife has of herself as being the centre of the universe. But it gets worse. The interview for the Sunday Times magazine reported that she does not gush back and added they haven't spent much time together. Instead, it is claimed she reveals how terrible she feels for Kate Middleton after her cancer diagnosis, saying, my heart just sunk when I saw what was happening. It gets worse for this one's wife. Tss, another burn. I know her, but I'd rather talk about Kate Middleton, the Nemesis. The Duchess and Ms. Gregoire Trudeau are believed to have been introduced through a mutual friend, Jessica Mulrooney, a stylist and the daughter-in-law of former Canadian Prime Minister Brian Mulrooney. The then this one's wife lived in Toronto, where she was filming Suits, and they met at the Canadian Fashion Awards. In her Arsey Wipes podcast, this one's wife described a day spent at home with Sophie and her family. We swam, we drank wine, we splashed in the water, then threw some pool floats in. This was the other version of us, both with wild curly hair and swimsuits and loose linen and huge belly laughs, big cuddles with our little ones and quiet whispers of girl talk on the terrace, giddy like absolute schoolgirls. We were having so much fun. Yes. A revision of history painting a particular picture to assert control over the audience. This one's wife called Miss Gregoire Trudeau a dear friend, who sent her supportive voice notes during her pregnancy. According to Finding Freedom, the unofficial diary of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex by the improbably named plastic-faced lick-spittle Lieutenant Omid Scobie and the now in hiding for quite some time Carolyn Durant, the pair became fast email friends. Typical behaviour of the narcissist, getting somebody under control quickly. This one's wife was interested to hear how Sophie had successfully made the move from an entertainment news correspondent to much-loved First Lady, all while skillfully dodging controversy, character trait acquisition. In the interview with the Sunday Times, Gregoire Trudeau does praise other women, but not this one's wife, including Michelle Obama, saying she's funny, she has a great sense of humour, and also very deep values that I respect. Bad news indeed for this one's wife, and a triple burn. Described as, I know her, not gushing back in her direction, speaking favourably about Kate Middleton, and furthermore, then talking about Michelle Obama. In the circumstances, it underpins not only the vacuous nature of this one's wife's friendships with anybody, because they're there simply to serve a purpose, but also how now Sophie Gregoire Trudeau recognises that this one's wife is someone who's best not bothered with, and results in a triple burn in the course of her interview. This one's wife would not be best pleased to read those words. They would amount to challenge fuel and cause her a problem because, of course, she believes that she's eminently lovable and somebody that should be gushed over. But what it does demonstrate is that what I told you about all of that time ago, more and more people are realizing just what this one's wife is and are distancing themselves from her, which, of course, for a narcissist such as her, is a huge problem. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.